The Occupy Wall Street movement has resonated with most Americans for a variety of reasons. With unemployment reaching levels of the Great Depression, many are no longer satisfied with business as usual, watching banks and Wall Street thrive while the rest of us are making sacrifices. How did we end up in this mess? Why are city workers scapegoated for the economic crisis, as if pensions and benefits have caused our recession? For some answers, let's look to economist Robert Reich.
What's the problem with the economy? Let me connect the dots and show you the big picture in less than 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Dot 1. Since 1980, the American economy has doubled in size. But adjusting for inflation, most people's wages have barely increased. Second dot. Where did all that money go? Almost all the gains have gone to the super rich. The top 1% used to take home about 10% of total income. Now it takes home more than 20%. And the super rich have 40% of the nation's entire wealth. The third dot. All this money at the top has given the super rich lots of political power, especially power to lower their tax rates. Before 1980, the top tax rate was over 70%. Now it's down to 35%. And much of their income is capital gains, subject to only a 15% tax. According to the IRS, the richest 400 Americans pay only 17%. Fourth dot. This means huge budget deficits. Tax revenues are down to less than 15% of the total economy, the lowest in 60 years. So public services are being cut at all levels of government. Our kids are being crowded into classrooms with more and more other children. Roads, bridges, levees, healthcare, safety nets, they're all being sacrificed. The fifth dot. Instead of joining together for better wages and jobs, many people are so scared that they're competing with other working people for the scraps that are left behind. So we get union versus non-union, public employee versus private, native-born versus immigrants. Final dot. The vast middle class, unable to borrow as it could before, no longer has the purchasing power needed to get the economy growing again, which means continued high unemployment and an anemic recovery. So you see the big picture? The only way we can have a strong economy is with a strong middle class.
So we understand that the rich aren't paying their fair share of taxes, but what do big banks have to do with all of this? To help answer, we created a timeline of some important events over the past couple decades. In the 1990s, banks began lobbying for deregulation, which means they wanted to be able to make risky investments without government oversight. This allowed them to give faulty mortgage loans to populations who couldn't possibly pay them back, paving the way for the foreclosure crisis. Most people didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. By the time the bubble burst in 2007, tens of thousands of Americans were forced to the street. Tumbling property, real estate, and sales taxes meant lack of revenue for local governments, with budget deficits at record highs. Even though banks' irresponsible investments have caused our economic crisis, they have been given trillions in bailouts, while social services are cut and your benefits and salaries are being slashed. You might be asking, what can we do about this? How can we get our message across to big banks that irresponsible investments will no longer be tolerated at our expense? Some are trying to speak with their money, closing their accounts with big banks and moving it into credit unions or community banks. Credit unions and community banks are nonprofit organizations, which means they have no incentive to invest unethically. Since the Occupy movement began, almost 1 million Americans have moved about $5 billion into credit unions and community banks. Local 21 members have jumped on board to become a part of this movement.
I recently switched my bank from Wells Fargo to a credit union. I had the belief that, it's difficult to find ATMs. There might be a lot of different fees involved. They very quickly negated that fear for me by indicating to me that they had belonged to a network of other credit unions. I definitely feel that other Local 21 members should also get involved in the cause, and if they can, dump their bank, especially if they belong to one of the large corporate banks like B of A or Wells Fargo. I think that it's important because it really does send a message to these corporations that there is power in numbers and that we can affect their bottom line. I think sometimes they feel, a bank like B of A has so many members, or at least had so many members, that to lose maybe 100,000 is not a big deal to them. But I think if they see this union and other unions, as well as the layperson out on the street, other people going in there and explaining to them why they're moving their money from one institution to another, that it will certainly make an impact. And I think we have nothing to lose by doing it if you can in any way do it, and everything to gain.
Not sure how to find a credit union that's right for you? It's easy. Just look on the website moveyourmoneyproject.org and type in your zip code to see a list of hundreds of credit unions close to where you live and work. Credit unions are FDIC insured, so your money is protected just like regular banks. There's online banking, and in some instances, it's even easier to get a loan.
Welcome to the first half of Tina versus the Big Bank Loan Officer. Tina needs a used car loan at an affordable rate. This should be a slam dunk. Oh, he blocks Tina. A foul is called on Big Bank for very restrictive lending terms and conditions. Tina makes her next play and drives to Members Credit Union for the assist. She gets the loan. She scores!
We hope you'll agree that it's time to tell your big bank that it's over. Not sure how to do it? Just tell them like it is.
First, I thought we worked well together.
You always had a smile for me when I walked through the door.
But I'm starting to see the bigger picture.
You were only smiling at my paycheck.
You don't even care about me.
The last time you were in trouble, I bailed you out, and I am still paying for it.
You know what?
I'm through.
I'm taking my money elsewhere.